Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'm going to be going through the final games of the Serpentine Cup. If you didn't watch my previous video on it, we made it through the semis and this was the finals. Best of 3 against Tungdil, who made it through to the finals by beating both of his opponents in best of 1s. So I had a very long trajectory there. I lost my first game against Tungdil, then had to battle through the lower bracket, and now here we are to try and take the crown. $800 of prize pool on the line. Now, I decided to go for a Stormcaller pack here. I think it was because I didn't really like any of the aggro packs, so I ended up going for something, more long range. Ends up being the case that my opponent has an aggro pack, Spider with Crawlers and Fangs. I wasn't really expecting this from him, because, well, Tungdil is known to be a very, very solid standard player, and so I thought he would pick, a more long range pack there, but opts to go for the Spiders instead. Very normal formation there, Fangs in front, Crawlers in the back, and looks like he'll be pushing my right side. I'm just going to go for a more mid position, playing around with some different setups here with the Stormcallers, trying to make sure that they're somewhat in the middle of the board and hopefully they can shoot at different units. And I opt to go for Hounds here. My idea being was to go for some Hounds with fire and make sure that I can burn these Crawlers as they walk through, and looks like that might be very doable indeed. Stormcallers here will be hitting pretty well. I mean, this pack is a little bit, away from the action, but it'll probably be able to kind of swoop in as these units are getting closer to my tower. Lots and lots of Crawlers coming in, but luckily we are locked onto the enemy Spider, and that will be going down. Crawlers getting pulled, and as they clump up, the second pack of Stormcallers actually is not doing too bad of a job of clearing those Crawlers. We're now pulling them back. Really lovely pulls happening here. Hounds, I don't think we'll be able to do quite enough against the Spider. As the Spider walks the tower, it would be really nice if we could take it down before, but that's not going to happen. So the Spider will pick up that 200 experience from tower, but looks like we will eventually come out ahead in this fight and take home round 1. Now, round number 2, Subsidized Mustang there shows up, and I was a little bit annoyed about this because I think with this being shown and Tungdil picking it up, it's going to be way too difficult to get into the fire idea, right? Very cheap Mustangs, missile intercept will be able to deal with any of the missiles that these Hounds will fire, and it's just going to be wasted resources for me. So instead I go for the extended range Phoenix there. I level up my right tower, and I decide to put some Hounds here all the way in the back to pull some enemy Crawlers. Opponent does go for a Marksman, so expecting a potential air unit to show up. And an interesting pairing. Usually you would expect the Spider player to go for something like Phoenix, unless of course they start with Marksman, but interesting choice here to go for the lone Marksman playing aggro. Spider still taking some time to take down though, and looks like, chaff clear is still the issue. And at this point I was trying to work towards Vulcan, as clearly with the Subsidized Mustang being picked up, something like Houndfire really would not be possible. We will take down the Spider, but looks like round 2 will be going towards Tungdil, and so we're going blow for blow in the early game of round 1. And round 3, this is where I'm not too sure what to do here, because my idea was to go for a Vulcan. That's kind of what the setup was, but then now Fortress shows up, and that's going to be really annoying for my Vulcans to deal with. Not to mention, I can't really invest into Phoenix anymore either, because Forte A would kind of stall that plan. So instead, I go for Fortress here as well, and I was kind of expecting something to show up on the right side, which is why the Fortress will be going on the right. But still, chaff clear now just really not available for me, and I will have to work towards something. Maybe I should be going for my own Spiders, to be honest. Might not be the worst thing. Opponent goes for Fortress as well, and looks like that lock won't be too great for me, as he does insta-lock my Fortress. At least I have another one here on the left, but the one on the right, stuck on those newly bought Mustangs and stuck on the Crawlers and Fangs. I do go for some oil. The plan for me was still to go into Vulcan and set this on fire next turn. I was hoping that this slow would be able to win me around. But yeah, clearly too much chaff available and the level 2 tower will fall, which means it's going to be another round going towards Tungdil. But now we're in a bit of a pickle. Tarantulas, both of them leveling. And the fortress there, I mean, picked up, well, not too much experience, I have to say. That's kind of fine. Round number 4, heavy armor shows up. Both of us should probably pick that, considering the big units we have. And yeah, my opponent is a Rhino specialist, so we'll have access to that level 2 Rhino. Probably will find its way onto my left tower somewhere. That's a very common play, so have to watch out for that. Let's see if we play around it. I do buy a Vulcan, and I'm simply going to opt to level the left tower. And I do have a missile there, so maybe we can slow... Wow, a missile interceptor being put to use as well. Meanwhile, topside here, not really being dealt with by my opponent. Those hounds should be able to get to tower. Not too sure what happened there. Happy I picked up that level, and the fire will get rid of the chaff, which means that we might be able to get some better locks this time around. Somehow, some way, that Rhino going into the wrong direction, being pulled towards the middle, so I won't get debuffed. Very happy with that. Hounds will grab the enemy tower from the flank, and suddenly my fortress here doing a really good job. Other fortress in the middle also managed to survive, and with only the spiders left, that's a pretty good round. We managed to pick up 2 fortress levels, and we're starting to strike back. Round number 5. And here, opponent picks Fire Badger. I should really pick Fire Badger here as well, I think. Or else I could try and sell. But Fire Badgers seem really good for me to chaff clear with. We'll have to see what I decide to go for. Opponent buys another fortress, and I go for the Overlord. That is a very, very odd choice. I think that's a mistake now, in hindsight. I think I should have picked the Fire Badgers there, because my chaff clear still wasn't great, but I'm guessing that my idea being, well, I had to buy the Vulcan to set that on fire, and I should just try and invest more into that, perhaps. Also, Overlord here can be put on the left side, should be able to take down that missile interceptor, get rid of the Rhino, and then hopefully get to the enemy tower. Opponent Fire Badgers, 1 on the flank, and 1 to deal with the hounds. I do decide to missile this crawler pack with the Tarantula, because of course I want to lock on as fast as I can. I pick up 2 of the fortress levels, because that's really important in the mirror. And I decide to attack range, which my opponent does as well. Range on the Tarantulas, by the way, picked up 2. This Vulcan, though, kind of useless, and man... Oh, looking back, I really wish that I had picked up those Fire Badgers. Rhino, is that somehow going to make it to tower? Oh, the missiles there not quite hitting, and the Rhino gets the tower. That is not at all what I was hoping for. Oh boy, this boat just not paying off whatsoever. And because of that, my level 2 fortresses are now locked onto, and there's too many crawlers just crawling about. Meaning that as strong as my fortresses are with the levels, as long as they don't connect, we're simply going to lose to the lower level units here, and that will allow my enemy fortresses to level, or at least one of them. Maybe, just maybe, this Overlord can change things, but 1 marksman's still alive, and we have to get through all of these tarantulas as well. Never mind this Mustang. Oh, maybe? Level 1 marksman, not dealing too much damage, and we are locked on, so... Okay, I wasn't too happy here with the Overlord pick, as it wasn't able to deal with the Rhino, but looks like it will clutch up the round after all. But we still have a chaff clear problem. Ion Blast shows up, really powerful spell, but both of us going for the heavy armor. I guess Ion Blast, I mean, it might be easier to hit for him, but I have pretty tanky units, and they probably don't care too much. Same thing here on the enemy board. Things are quite spaced out, so getting an additional armor should be fine. Now, my chaff clear is a bit of a problem, but I do run Overload, which my opponent doesn't run. And Overload allows you to chaff clear somewhat decently, as it does give you that 0.9 reload with 5 meters of splash, somewhat similar to an arc light, right? 7 meters of splash on an arc light. It's a bit less, but it'll allow you to kind of get by decently. We decide to pick up more fortresses. Opponent going for 1 more here as well. I decide to go for a Phoenix flank, but opponent puts a Mustang back there at the perfect moment. I did sell out of my Overlord, but man, we could have taken this tower quite easily if we decided to just push for that. Was not expecting this at all. Maybe even a Stormcaller here on the left would have been able to do some good work. And now it's just going to be the fortresses battling it out. But Chafker's situation still a little bit tricky. Vulcan will do a pretty decent job in the middle though, but gets insta-locked by the enemy fortress and will fall pretty quickly there. Meanwhile, all of these units walking in, that crawler pack is going to take some time to go through, and while my fortress is now locked on, it's not going to last long enough, I think, to defend the tower. Same thing over here. You can see these Mustangs are just so annoying. And maybe I should pick up some Mustangs of my own, thinking about it. Fortress will pick up another level, but yeah, for now it really just seems to be a Chafker issue on my side. Trying to make do with the fortresses, but it just wasn't quite enough. Round number 7. Electromagnetic Blast available. Probably should pick that up as well. Lots of things to hit. I go for the redeployment instead, okay. So trying to move around some pieces. Tungdil opting to loan. And goes for the Fang production on the fortresses. I think I really should go for like triple blue Mustang with range here if I can. I could even try to go for a single like fire round. So buy a bunch of hounds, click fire, see if that works. I do have access to the oil though, so maybe that will be unnecessary. And let's see, temp range picked up. Temp range for me as well. I'm not loaning though, by the looks of it. I'm just picking up more fortresses, hoping that the overload will do enough. Do shield up, of course, because I have to protect my fortresses from the eventual EMP blast. And I'm not going for chaff gear here because I know that the oil is back, so that should allow me to deal with everything. Fortress in the top right flank as well, trying to just grab that debuff. And opponent now turning his attention to my left tower, which I was somewhat expecting, so I do go for a tower level. Typically when the oil comes back, that's when someone who plays aggro will try and shift things to the other side to avoid the fire. I do lock on to this fortress immediately, but again, I don't have too much chaff clear on that side. Fortress here will connect, of course, the fire doing a great job, and with the overload, I think we should be able to get through that relatively easily. Well, I say that, actually takes quite a long time. Surprised at how much damage this fortress is taking. I guess it was hit by the EMP, so it probably took a little bit longer because of that. Level 3 fortress here in the middle should be able to get rid of that level 1 fort. But still, even with the fire, things not looking too good. I mean, I think that tower debuff definitely didn't help, and 2 of my fortresses did get EMP'd. But man, with all of these Mustangs still alive, there's just too much of the chaff. And this fortress hitting me from the side, that level 3, even though I have those level advantages, just not working out. Round number 8. 2 arc lights show up, but is that really going to save me? I'm not sure. Maybe that's what I should go for though. Just pick up the arc lights, pick up 3 more at level 2, click range, maybe even elite. Might be an idea. Instead I pick up the phantoms. Maybe trying to play for phantom oil here to try and set everything on fire as much as I can. Especially with that Fang spawn. Could be difficult to chaff clear everything in time. Melting point though shows up and now picked up. This could get tricky for me. Because I'm kind of, well, my opponent is also pushing into me, but if he puts those melters far back as he does, trying to deal with that fortress that was on the flank, of course I redeploy it and bring it back to the main board. But if I'm having to push into these melters with the overload fortresses that only have 135 range, that could prove problematic. Oil on the Phantoms has been clicked, and I'm basically just trying to play for a one-shot here, hoping that I can set as much on fire as possible, get some insta-locks, and then win through that. Let's see, left side, a new Vulcan has been purchased, some Phantom Rays with oil as well, to try and split up and put as much oil on the ground as possible. This tech has been buffed recently. The radius of the oil bombs went from 30 to 40, which drastically increases the size of the fire. And look at that. That's even a bigger area than the oil from last round. Everything set on fire. We are locked onto that big fortress. And yeah, this time around without the EMP, this does go much more smoothly. But man, that big melter in the middle now has managed to lock onto my massive fortress. And we'll take that down very easily. Left side struggling as well. Looks like somehow the oil there did not link up. And I think that'll be all she wrote for game one, sadly. Melting point there, closing it out. And Tungdil will be winning the first game. I think I made a lot of mistakes in this game. Not too happy with how I played it. This looked like it was winnable. But man, the Vulcan there, just not... yeah, investing into it enough, but I was a bit scared of clicking range because it might get stuck on a fortress, and like, when there's this much chaff kind of parsed through the whole board, it can be really tough to defend all your Vulcans and get enough of them on the board. So I tried to get by with launcher overload on fortress, but that really wasn't enough. And yeah, I think not picking the fire badger drop was the biggest mistake, because if I had some fire badgers here, sure, it's banned into fortress, but it would have also prevented something like a melter drop in a way, right? It would have added some mid-sized units to deal with that. Overall, just, yeah, a chaff clear problem. A classic one, right? You just leave it until too late, and, well, the Phantom Rays worked okay, but wasn't quite able to seal the deal, and those melters, yeah, pushing into them, just not working out. Which means that we had to go to game 2 being one game behind in a best of 3, and we could afford no more losses. Alright, here we are, game 2. This is do or die, right? I'm 0-1 in this best of 3. If I lose this one, Tungdil will be the champion of the Serpentine Cup, so I have to give it my all. Now, looking at the packs, again, we have a lot of Stormcaller packs available. I don't like this Sledgehammer Marksman pack because it doesn't have any chaff, although I think if you're a proficient long-range player, it is actually kind of decent. And instead, I'll be going for some aggro because I want to switch things up. So I pick up the Steel Ball and Hound pack here, triple Hound. And I'm going to be adding crawlers, of course, right off the bat. My opponent starts with sledgehammers and crawlers and is a fortified specialist. I am a Sabertooth specialist. Sabertooth here won't really be that useful into sledgehammers. I mean, both Steel Balls and Sabers are just not great at killing those. So I'll probably just end up selling it, but it might give me some nice tempo. Maybe we can even try something on the other side of the board. For now, we'll just have to see what my opponent does. Goes for double Arclight, has a triple crawler start, and we're pushing the left side. I put 2 hounds here on the left to try and deal with whatever chaff is going to arrive around my steel balls, and then 1 late hound on the right side to pick off any of the crawlers that might go for my right tower, and that will work out pretty nicely and at least prevent an early debuff on the right side. Meanwhile, left, things are looking good. Sledgehammers into steel ball is a tough matchup for steel balls, but on round 1, if they don't add any additional DPS, you often will be completely fine, and that is exactly what happens here. Looks like 2 of our steel balls are going to go for the tower as well, so we'll be able to grab the debuff, finish off the sledgehammers, and then probably just chase down this Arclight. A good first round, and looking at the experience, we might even grab a level, 912. If we kill the Arclight, yeah, that'll be a steel ball level up right there. Tower does go down, but with the lock-on, that's not going to be an issue, and we do grab an early level. That can be very nice. Could allow us to get a lot of tempo. Subsidized steel ball offered here. I think if I was more confident in that strategy, I might have gone for it, but it's always a bit tricky trying to spam steel balls. Definitely possible with something like the mechanical division, but I didn't feel like risking things, and so instead I just go for a safer play, which is Crawler here on the shallow flank to prevent any missiles from hitting the steel ball pack, level up on the steel ball pack, and then pick up a Phoenix as well to deal with potential air threats. Opponent here seems to not really respect the air threats, so goes for Sledgehammer and Arclight instead. Very powerful defensive setup, I will say, and already when I'm going to be seeing this, I'll be trying to think of different ways to play this game. I think forcing steel balls into this many sledgehammers is just going to be too much of a pain, really. And I was thinking about picking up a Wraith, which is what I usually do, but if opponent is already into triple sledge, Wraith isn't that good into sledgehammers either. And so I didn't feel like forcing the issue. So already I'm starting to think, okay, if I don't want to play Steel Ball and I don't want to play Wraith, I need to find some DPS, which could be my Phoenixes, to be fair, and then I still need to pick up some sort of chaff clear. Not quite sure what that's going to be. I don't like playing Arclights that much on the offensive. Maybe I would have to turn the board back into like a mid-rangey board and then that works, but yeah, not too sure. Maybe we'll get something from the unit drops though. That would be very helpful. Phoenixes here will prevail. It is a very, very close round, but 200 damage is 200 damage. And that is going to be the rounds back-to-back going over to me as we enter round number 3. Sabertooth available, and here we have the packs. Triple Fang. Yeah, that is rough when you're playing aggro. But I do get the Fire Badger, and I think it's pretty much the only thing I can go for. And here I'm starting to think, okay, I mean, level 3 Fire Badger is very powerful. It'll be good enough into sledgehammers as well. But, ooh, left side, opponent already picking up a Scorpion there. And I am selling out of Steel Balls, kind of expecting him to do something like this. But yeah, this is going to be rough. Like, look at how much chaff there is on the board all of a sudden. That is, yeah, that is a lot. And Scorpion, although I am selling out of Steel Balls, is good into Fire Badger as well. But I don't think I have a choice here. I have to keep playing Fire Badgers, because otherwise I will simply not have any options, right? It's basically this or play Wraith to be able to deal with this much chaff. And I think with some good positioning and some chaff, I should be able to protect my Fire Badgers long enough. So right side here will prevail, get through to the tower. Left side kind of crumbling instantly. And yeah, because of the quad Fang, opponent not even needing to really deal with my Phoenixes. Simply trust the Fangs to do their thing. Crawlers on my tower will cause a debuff. How much is the Scorpion going to do? I'm a little bit afraid of that. Oh boy. Okay, well, Saber at least is tanking some shots. Can the Fire Badgers kill enough of the Fangs? Maybe they can. Oh, there is a couple of them in between, I think, here. But this one's distracted, getting pushed, perhaps, by his sledgehammers. Yeah, that is exactly what is happening. But that'll be enough to take the round. Just about, though. I'm not feeling too confident about the situation here, as opponent's defense already looks very, very capable against what I have set up. Round number 4, Incendiary Bomb could be a good thing to pick up. Advanced Shield Device is very strong, but it's hard for me to make use of when I'm playing aggressive. And yeah, let's see. We are going to be burning the left side. We sold out of Steel Balls, of course. Picking up the range on the Fire Badgers, which only cost 200. And, well, it'll help them stay safe somewhat, because all of a sudden we're facing triple Scorpion on the enemy board. This one on the left ready to level up as well. Kind of scary. I am beaconing backwards my Phoenixes, trying to make sure as many of these units walk through the fire as possible, and then hopefully the Phoenixes can catch the bigger units that come through. And we're just adding some chaff at this point. Fire Badger all the way in the back here as well, trying to protect them with some crawlers and pull as much chaff as I can. That was very loud. My goodness. Fire Badger's coming through. The fire, though, will burn all the chaff, so these Scorpions will find their mark. How much can the Phoenixes do? Again, opponent, though, going ham on the Scorpions, just not really respecting the Phoenixes. And that will yield another round win, I do believe. It's only marginal, though. I can understand why you would do this, because even if the Phoenixes do live, the rest of the board is crushing right now, right? It's very hard for me to contest the ground, even though I kind of have to. Now, round number 5, you get additional deployment slots. Good card, instant pickup for Tungdale. I probably should go for that myself. And we get range here on the Arclights. Mustangs unlocked as well. Finally, a marksman is picked up to deal with the phoenixes. And it's just going to be some more chaff. An alternative could have been to try and play something like Stormcallers and play further back, but I never really trust Stormcallers in mid-range positions. And, well, with Muscling Intercept being as strong as it is, kind of tough to justify that. So instead, I decided to go for Hacker. My opponent does have triple Sledge, and Hacker is pretty good into Scorpion and into Arclight as well. So I'm hoping to, yeah, combine the forces here of the Fire Badgers and the Hackers as a strong combo to try and, yeah, take over some enemy units and contest the ground a bit better. Phoenixes will remain useful, so I can just keep them around. And let's see how this shapes up. If I could have moved back, maybe this... I mean, this setup does look like pretty, like, stormable, vulcanable, maybe. But I think on aggro, it's a bit tougher to pull off. So let's see how things will shake up. Phoenixes are getting some good locks. Hackers hacking some Arclights, annoying the enemy Scorpions there. And that allows the Phoenixes to get in. Left tower, though, getting taken out. And with the debuff, I don't think this Hacker will be able to take over the enemy Scorpion. Still one marksman left alive, but even if we manage to somehow snipe it, that onslaught of fangs would have done the job. And so I'm taking a lot of damage all of a sudden as we enter round 6 with the second rotation of unit reinforcements. Raiden available, Sandworm available, Stormcaller and Farseer. Farseer could be strong, I mean, either to keep around or to go for something, or just sell it, basically. Stormcallers, again, I did mention, could be a good in-between unit. Probably will have to sell it eventually, but might have been fine. Instead, I decided to go for the Farseer. It's a useful unit. I don't really have anything to deal with potential wasps, so I think that's going to be a good thing to go for. Opponent goes for the Sandworm, though, which is an understandable choice. Very good against the low-damage Hackers, the low-damage Fire Badgers. I'm not too sure I'll be able to take this over. And, well, I do decide to go for some more investment. We now pick up the Barrier to try and defend these Fire Badgers somewhat and have them remain alive as long as possible. Also, we pick up some Hounds with Incendiary Bomb, trying to set on fire these Fang Packs. Also kind of trying to delay the left side. So it's a bit of a mix here of units, right? We've got both Hounds and Fire Badgers, but I felt like I was really struggling to chaff clear because of how good Scorpion is into Fire Badger. And, yeah, hoping that the additional fire would make a bit of a difference. Phoenixes, in the meantime, level 3, starting to get quite scary. And although the Hackers might not be able to take over the Sandworm alone, the Phoenixes might be able to damage them enough to where we might be fine here. Still a little bit dubious, but we'll see. Left side, I think, now has been fixed, though, and the fire, honestly, not doing too poor of a job. Hounds looks like have been killed, though. Well, they don't have any range, and the Arclights do, so not too surprised at that. And while I say left side is fine, it's not as bad as it was, but yeah, the Hackers into Crawler is not a great thing. Fire Badger somehow managing to go through, though. Scorpion didn't deal with them. It's kind of interesting. And, well, I thought I was going to be doing a bit better here, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Triple Scorpion alive still. Couple Marksmen and Arclights. And the Worm lives. Oh, boy. That is a lot of damage. Down to 1100 entering round 7. And keep in mind, I need to win this game. Barrier here shows up. I mean, I could go for something like a Melter just to deal with the Sandworm. It wouldn't be the worst. It's pretty good pairing with the Fire Badgers as well. And decent into Scorpion. Opponent goes for Fortress, though. Wondering what that is for. Will pick up the Barrier. Just throw that onto the Fortress. So it looks like he doesn't want to go for the Barrier tech. And here I was thinking of my options. And I thought, well, I can either go Melter and pick up the Barrier. Or I can try and play for something like Factory. I ended up going for the Factory. Don't necessarily ask me why. I think both Melter and Factory are justifiable, but I feel like when you're very far behind and you're not too sure what will work, War Factory tends to be a good answer. That unit can deal with almost anything as long as it isn't air-based. And so, yeah, I will be settling for a Factory here because I felt like my board was lacking more than just a Melter at this point. It was lacking more beefiness, just all around better like DPS, and that's exactly what a factory can provide if teched with the battle techs. It's going to be Fort AA here from the opponent, so I'm guessing that he smells blood, which is why he's loaning. I mean, I am too, because I understand that I could lose here after taking so much damage last round, but going AA Fortress is quite the choice, right? Like, this is not really going to help him in the long run. My Phoenixes are currently unteched, and well, a ranged level 2 factory really won't mind those level 1 fortresses. And mind you, the AA here does some chip damage, but these Phoenixes definitely can tank some of it, and even the level 2s on the left seem to be doing kind of fine. I will say though, left side still haven't really been able to deal with that. Chafker situation is abysmal, but well, the right side is at least looking strong. And we can see here, factory doing a good job dealing with all of the big units, and maybe, just maybe, we can win. We do get debuffed, and this onslaught of crawlers going for my tower is a little bit scary. Hoping I can grab a debuff, but I'm not too sure I'll be able to. As, yeah, we're getting distracted. Another tower will fall. Another 9 seconds of debuff. Level 1 Scorpion. I mean, these are a lot of small units. They don't deal that much damage, but I think there's just too much on the field here for this factory to be able to deal with all of them. It's fighting valiantly, though. And is that just going to be it? Oh, not quite. 38 hit points. Okay, well, we're still in it. That was looking a little bit better, but I just have to fix the left side, which is still a big, big problem. Portable shield shows up. I can't really use that. I mean, well, I say that. I could have maybe thrown it onto a fire badger. Would at least allow it to survive a bit longer and chaff clear. Fire is back up for cooldown. We get some shields on a forward fortress, as seems like Tungdil has identified some weakness here on the left side. I'm somewhat surprised about the barrier pickup, since he did pick up the barrier item as well. The way that this works is that the item will override. So for now it's fine, right? Because you get 60,000 hit points barrier, and normally the level 1 fortress only has 40k. But if he would happen to level this, the barrier wouldn't be 80k, but it would be still the 60k. So could nerf himself. 2 rhino drops in the back. I mean, here I have to be really careful about everything, right? Can lose to just about anything. Probably could have lost this round to Wasp if my opponent just went all out for that. Luckily for me, he didn't. Hackers are locked on here to the fortresses, but the factory is just so strong that, yeah, we don't really get a chance to hack anything. Left side, of course, a factory has been added now as well, and, well, no acid on the Scorpions just yet, so I think this time around my chances are way, way better. And yeah, just look at this, right? Scorpions without acid, without double shot. Not really able to deal with a 337,000 hit point Titan. Left side should be cleaned up too, and that is going to be, finally, a round. I'm not out of the waters just yet, though. And here we get a pretty easy pickup, laser sight available. And I'm thinking, okay, the only thing, right, my opponent has to do is identify a way to win with my weaknesses. And what is my current weakness? It is Wasp. I can't deal with it. I mean, even my anti-air admittedly isn't the best, because the Phoenixes are unranged and they eventually will die to either the Marksman or the Fort AA. And so, yeah, you can see there, Wasps are coming out. And so here I'm just going off of my gut. I did unlock Farseer before by picking up the drop, and I'll be going for that. I'll be trying to just, well, go for a gut feeling and trust that Farseer is the right pickup. It doesn't really do anything else for my board, but it does, at the very least, prevent a potential cheese. And at this point I was thinking, okay, I think these factories are plenty strong to be able to deal with the enemy forces. These fortresses are really not scary whatsoever. The Scorpion's now starting to get a bit tricky, as acid attack has been picked up, but as long as I manage to make sure I don't die to cheese, I'm in with a chance. And so, yeah, you can see here, Crawler and Wasp flank, Farseers on the outsides. I do give the laser sight to the Farseer, just to try and make sure that they stay out of range. We also pick up a second tech on the War Factory now with the Launcher Overload. That'll help us Chafker a bit better and also get rid of any units. Prevent them from staying locked onto my factory for too long. And yeah, This would have definitely lost me the game if I didn't defend it, but happy that my gut feeling was right on this one. We're not out of the waters just yet, though. 38 hit points is not a lot. And I can't afford any mistakes. Fortress, though, this time around will get hacked in its entirety. And we're also taking over some of the arc lights, and hopefully that'll lock up some of these scorpions. I say that, never mind. They've got their eyes set on my factory, and, well, they will fall. Is that going to be all she wrote? Wait a second. Arc light that was picked up took the tower, 9 seconds of debuff, and now the level 3 scorpion is mine. We may be able to survive this, but we'll have to somehow get rid and or hack everything else. Ooh, scorpion there doesn't fire, so units will be safe. We take over a marksman, we get the tower with the enemy scorpion, and some way, somehow, we managed to weather the storm on that round and stay in it. Round number 10. Raid and Wraith, Melting Point, and Rhino show up. Now, opponent here goes for the Wraith. And I thought they would go for Melting Point in all honesty, but I guess they're just trusting the Scorpions to do their thing into the factory. I'm simply going to opt to take and sell the Raiden, because I am bleeding some cash here, right? 400 a turn for the factories, and of course I've been loaning for the past rounds. So I can use the money. And here I just kind of got to trust the Farseers and hope that they can deal with the enemy Wraith if it shows up. Opponent does run field maintenance, but we could preemptively go for something like electromagnetic explosion. I could have also gone for the melter if I was really scared. It's a bit hard to say here whether or not the Farseers are going to be enough to deal with the potential Wraith attack, and that is exactly what we're going to be up against. Deciding now to level up the hackers, because last round that is exactly what won me the game. Not necessarily the factory surviving, but the hackers clutching up in the late round. So picking up some levels here makes sense. It also makes the barrier stronger, and so we're elite recruiting. Fire Badger here on the left side, adding some more hackers, making sure that we have decent chaff clear. Temp range picked up. And let's see how this plays out. Lots of missiles being used here by the opponent, and Wraith on the front lines, but currently without a tech. I didn't go for EMP, which is likely a mistake. I think if opponent here goes for regen, I would not have been able to kill the Wraith. So a bit of an oversight, but man, these rounds get really complicated, so I probably just kind of missed that was a threat. Looks like we'll have just about enough to deal with the Wraith. Right side's somewhat crumbling, but the Farseer does go down, and meanwhile, the left side, completely fine. And with that, we managed to take the enemy tower with their own units, and, well, during debuff, the hackers can do magic. Taking over some of the level 1 fortresses here, which have now been triple teched with range, and also taking over the enemy scorpions. Is that going to be enough? Not quite. 500 hit points remaining, so it's really going to come to the last round where, well, at this point, either one of us is going to die on round 11, you'd have to imagine. Another laser sight shows up. Mustang production line picked up for Tungdil. I don't have any giants to put items on, so for me, it's probably just going to be a laser sight. Wouldn't mind putting it on the enemy, or on the enemy, on my own Farseers, because again, keeping them out of harm's way seems like it would be the right choice. Opponent's selling out of the Wraith. Doesn't want to invest further into them. And the oil is back off cooldown here. Left side, trying to burn as much chaff as I possibly can. That'll allow me to lock onto the important units with my hackers, with my mobile factory. We get some crawler flank here. Well, flank. This was already there, but trying to distract my Farseer as much as possible. I probably should just miss all that. Look at all these missiles being deployed on my frontline chaff. Nothing is getting to survive. And I am playing a little bit of a low chaff game, but I guess, well, a lot of my chaff deployments are in the hounds here. Yeah, luckily we do go for a missile back there. One on the right as well. Trying to slow down, or well, make sure that I don't get slowed down is really important. And this is when we do pick up the levels on the Farseer and also pick up the electromagnetic explosion. Really no reason not to. Not going range is a bit greedy, but, well, I have temp range and I have the laser sights as well. We even pick up photon emission, which will hit the factories. And that's really the only thing I need to hit with it, because it'll allow them to not die to the acid, or not take too much damage at least in the first 20 seconds of combat. Fire lands pretty well, and considering most of my chaff got hit anyway, it really doesn't affect my push all that much. Farseer level 2, able to dispatch the Wraith. The fortresses have been leveled, but it doesn't look like the Scorpions are able to do too much. Oh, the photon is gone. Ay, ay, ay. What is that? Oh, a big chunk on my factory. Looks like it will end up going down, but the hackers now are locked on. Can they somehow take over this fortress? Looks like they'll be able to. And now the tower goes down left side. And during the debuff, we can probably take over that hacker, or not the hacker, the Scorpion. And I think that's just going to be game. Somehow, some way, we have managed to turn this horrible early game into a win. Now, mind you, there were plenty of ways, I think, for my opponent to win. I went for Farseer a turn late. I think my opponent could have gone for Wasp the turn before. And yeah, could have probably gone for Wraith with regen as well on the turn that I didn't click EMP and won just by brute force. So, but sometimes, you know, that is how things go. These games are very, very tricky. This was in a tournament. Both of us here are making like tiny mistakes, and well, you just have to capitalize on them and try to do as best you can. I think at least picking up the Farseer here was the right move. Trying to pivot out of steel balls, definitely the right call as well. Maybe I could have tried to play a Wraith anyway, but in my experience, it's just really tough. I mean, as soon as the quad fang comes out on defense, I have to do something. Wraith probably would have been capable of living a bit better, right? Because playing steel ball is the same as playing Fire Badger into Scorpion. They're good targets to hit anyway. But yeah, I really struggled, but eventually the hackers came online. The factories did fantastic. Number 1 and number 2 on damage, of course. And yeah, quite the exciting game, but that's not it just yet. We have a third game, a decider to play. Let's head over there. All right, game number 3. Here we are. Looking at my packs, Giant Spec doesn't look too bad, and that is going to be what I go for. Opponent here has Spiders available again, has the Stormcaller pack as well if they just want to play Standard and play some Phoenixes. Even the Elite Specialist, honestly, doesn't seem too bad. You can play some Arc Carry off of that. Having the 2 level 2 Arcs on round 1 usually will win you the early game. But it is going to be Spiders, so here I'm up against a bad matchup. Playing Sledgehammer Fang into Tarantula tends to not be that favorable. And, well, we'll just have to see what we can do. Now, here I am going to be trying to go for a setup I've been playing around with against Heimar players, and while it revolves around the Link Sledge, but yeah, that's going to be on the right side of the board here, trying to space them out, 1 square between the Sledgehammers and the Fangs, and kind of pressure the right side of the tower. I usually like to go kind of deep on the flanks as well with this strategy and try to pull the enemy forces apart so that the tower becomes more vulnerable. But a nice mid-pull here, mid-range setup from Tungdil, looks like it could prove very effective against what I'm trying. Let's see how it plays out. Double crawler pickup for me as well. I don't really like to go for marksman with these type of setups. I don't think they deal enough damage. And they tend not to pair that well with really like aggro boards that try to push in. At the same time, I guess sledgehammers aren't the fastest, but with something like Mech Rage, we might be able to pressure the towers a bit more. Tower debuff though, yeah, that is not ideal at all. A couple of crawlers heading over to the tower, and with the debuff, that's going to be 2 spiders left alive, plus a bunch of chaff. Not an ideal first round for me. Round number 2, we immediately have to deal with unit reinforcements. Wasps available, Hounds available, Typhoon 2, and a Rhino. I think Rhino here isn't a bad pick for tempo, but obviously we kind of have to deal with the potential Wasp, and so both of us will go for that. Looks like I'll be trying to go for the enemy left tower here, trying to use the flank to my advantage. The opponent is trying to defend the flanks as well, but putting it on the right side, for by the looks of it, we should be able to get in here and grab a debuff. I decided to pick up a Phoenix, as I usually do, because I do need some DPS, and suddenly looking at the enemy board, I am definitely going to need more than one Phoenix. Quad Spider there on the round number 2, looking quite scary. I hope that we can get into tower early enough to be able to, well, save some of our units here. Still have a deployment left. A beacon could be nice. Looks like it's going to be a Fang. Don't really want to miss out on my deployments. Just going to put a Fang here on the left tower and then move my Wasps to the flank. Main reason for that is I could see by the arrow that most of my Wasps would go for the Fangs, and I really wanted them to go to tower, so that's why we go on the flank instead. Sledgehammers for now seem to do just fine. Wasps have spawned in. But at the same time, most of my chaff has been dealt with by the opponent, and now they're starting to work away at my sledges. Okay, we do get the tower debuff, but can we get rid of all the chaff? Seems like the crawlers here are causing too many problems, and so I'm not really locking on to the enemy forces. And if all these spiders somehow live, that is going to prove really, really tough. That is 800 damage that I'm staring at, and I'm not even counting the wasps at this stage. Oh, okay. Well, that is about as rough as the early game can go. And now we also get Assault Scorpion offered for my opponent. Skips it. I think he could have tried to go for that. Scorpion Spider, of course, lacks anti-air, but it is a very, very dominant ground-based comp. Very hard to contest, especially when I'm already into sledgehammers. But I have to somehow switch something up here. Opponent, of course, has to deal with my Wasp. I don't run jump drives, so I'll likely have to sell these. But yeah, that was a lot of damage taken on round 2. Range now picked up on the spiders as well. I mean, my opponent definitely feels comfortable in the situation they're currently in. And meantime, I need to deal with these wasps as well that are arriving somewhat late. So I decided to do something a little bit crazy, perhaps. A little bit funky, as I go for an Overlord. It was the best thing I think I could buy. I am a giant spec, so I'm trying to make use out of it somewhat. And it seemed like, yeah, the best option here to pair with sledgehammers, and in a situation where I really just had way too low DPS. It also isn't the worst into wasps, unless they're carry wasps, but for now they're just level 1 untech'd, so I think the Overlord should be fine. And yeah, that is going to be what we go for. Wasps here on the left could get sold. Looks like we're keeping them. Crawler in front. So trying to kind of bluff the opponent there. He did add some fangs though, so we'll have to see how this turns out. Another crawler pack turns as well. Overlord will lock onto a spider immediately, and that already will kind of alleviate the pressure on my chaff and my sledgehammers. But yeah, chaff clear situation still not fantastic. Wasps on the left side seems like they're just about losing to the enemy Fang, sadly, so we won't get another debuff. Then the question is, how much can the Overlord do? We'll start working away at the Wasps. If we can get rid of those, there's only going to be a couple Fangs left. I'm not sure they'll be able to take this down. Although, Crawler's now going for tower. Maybe with the debuff, half a pack will be enough. Trying to kill the spider here, but looks like, actually it looks like the Fangs will get it done. And even 2 spiders living and leveling up at that. Really not too happy with how this early game has gone. Extended range Phoenix could have been a good card, but I think at this point I have to try and get into both, right? I've been doing too many different things. And I really need to stabilize as much as I can. Electromagnetic impact picked up here by my opponent. Trying to hit my Overlord. And a melter purchased as well to try and kill that unit. Missile on the crawlers. Probably should sell out of my wasps at this point. Could try and beacon them as well, but I think it's a little bit hard to get some value out of them now. And the chaff clear still is a problem. But with 850 left, how much can I do? Okay, it's going to be the Hounds. I felt like this was the cheapest thing I could purchase to try and deal with the enemy Fangs. And, well, I had some good targets to shoot at. So that's what it's going to be. And then I pick up the oil as well. on this turn to try and free up the enemy board as much as possible so that the Overlord can connect to the important units. It still allows us to grab another Overlord as well, which I'll probably be stacking, yeah, somewhere on the left side, trying to deal with these middle spiders. Let's see how this turns out. No techs picked up, so the EMP will only slow me down, which isn't that important. Fire will land, and with that, Overlord will find its mark. Already one spider going down. Phoenixes still on the board, also managing to help out and take down another spider. Meanwhile, the Melter unranged, unable to connect, and not really doing all too much. So this round looking a bit better, but of course I did use the oil. I will lose my tower yet again. And it looks like there's a bit of a trend going here with this game and the game before that, where I keep losing my left tower. Probably should level them up, but yeah, I feel like I just don't have the resources right now to go for something like that. Need to invest as much as possible into the boats, into chaff clear, and try to recover. And the boats here will prevail, so a good round. Overlord even manages to level, so maybe this is a door back into some type of comeback. Range now on the Melters. Barrier picked up. And I decided to go for the fire. We'll be utilizing that on the left side because, well, the tower has been falling so far, but it was only because of the chaff. So I'm trying to make sure the chaff here will burn. And also I was expecting the opponent to go for something like a barrier on the right side after utilizing the oil last round. More sledgehammers now picked up. Kind of trying to make sure those guys can help out with the chaff clear. And then I might have to get into something like Overload. Yeah, there we go. Level picked up on the Overlord on the right side as well. Need some extra damage. It'll help with the shield. And it'll help taking down the tanky Tarantulas and Melters. Another Melter here in the middle. I do decide to pick up a level on the Sledgehammers. Sledgehammer in the corner too, just trying to pull apart the enemy forces, and I felt like the best thing was to try and work towards mech rage sledgehammers. Didn't really feel like another chaff option was that viable. I could have gone for more hounds with fire, of course, but they tend to be quite difficult to make use of. Level 2 Overlord there, actually one-shots the enemy Melter. Middle Melter, managing to take down my level 1 Overlord, so we're trading blow for blow. And I think the Overlord here might be able to win. Yes, it will. Okay, very nice. Able to get rid of that enemy Melter. And now all we have to do is get rid of the Tarantula. Another level up there. So we have one massive Overlord kind of carrying the whole game. Sandworm, Rhino, Farseer, and Phantom Ray now show up. And oof, not too happy about that. Level 3 Farseer picked up on my opponent. Kind of scary. I decide to go for the Phantoms here. Phantoms pretty decent into something like Melter. They're basically air sledges, so not the worst. But yeah, that level 3 Farseer, a little bit scary with the EMP now picked up as well. I do go for the range. I think that's mandatory at this point. Need to make sure that my my Overlords stay safe. And I go for the Hounds, or a couple more at least, to try and get some fire down here onto those Fangs. Fangs added in front of the Sledgehammers as well. No mech rage though on the Sledgehammers. I feel like I probably should have gone for that instead. Phantoms here kind of parsed. Not too sure how much they will accomplish. They're also pretty bad into Farseer, sadly, so not convinced this was the right play to make. Chaff still seems to be a little bit of an issue. Those crawlers eating up a lot of the Overlord missiles. And as the Farseer now is starting to get close, that EMP really hits hard. And it doesn't take too long for him to take down my level 3 Overlord. The one in the middle is not doing too shabby, but a couple of Fangs annoying me. And yeah, Farseer EMP there causing trouble. And that's a pretty big round with 2 Melters left alive. And the Farseers deal more damage than you usually expect. Down to 1200. Round number 7. Photon emission available. I do go for that. Might help my Overlords live a bit longer and not get EMP'd. Smoke bomb could have been an option too, but it's somewhat hard to hit. I can't really pop this bubble instantly. The nice thing is the Photon did come back on the round electromagnetic impact was available. Farseer picked up on the left. I could also try to get into the left tower. I decided to go for more Overlords. Not sure if this is the right call. Chaff Clear definitely still an issue. And, well, I did mention Mech Rage, but I haven't picked it up yet. Then again, more Overlords with double tech could help with Chaff Clear as well. We decide to beacon those in. I was expecting my opponent to kind of go hard on the left side this turn and defend the tower, because usually when someone is on the low end of hit points as an aggro player, they will try and do something on the weak side. So this is why I was kind of trying to just double down on the right side whilst also making as much use out of the photon as I possibly could. And let's see how this plays out. Firehounds not doing too much right now. Those first salvos not really hitting where they're meant to. We are managing to take down some of the enemy Farseers, and in the middle is not looking too shabby. Couple of crawler packs though now arriving late, and those fangs have been causing problems. Enemy spiders will be going down, but it looks like we don't really have any chaff left, and that EMP lingering will mean I can't take down the enemy melter. And 2 melters left alive and 2 Farseers means that sadly that is going to be game. And so Tungdil wins the best of 3 and wins the Serpentine Cup. Big congratulations to him. It was honestly an epic tournament. Really enjoyed it. I mean, I was very happy with my performance. To be fair, if I had to look at the people I had to face, I really didn't expect to make it this far and even get to the finals. Of course, a little bit disappointed after making a bit of a miracle run in the lower bracket and taking down Flower Fairy, but Tungdil is a very, very powerful player. And yeah, got the better of me this time. Last game, I made a couple of silly mistakes, I think. I think one, I shouldn't go aggro with Sledgehammers into Spider. It's just a horrible matchup, usually, and you have to get quite fortunate to kind of stay even and get some form of tempo to be able to stay within the game. I think the pivot into Overlord made sense. It honestly kept me in the game for some time, but I really couldn't get a foothold in terms of chaff clear. Maybe should have gone for Mech Rage, like I mentioned. Might have made things a bit easier. Yeah, the Farseer drop there, a bit tough to deal with. I don't think I had the money to go for Photon Emission. Not sure that was viable. Hounds also not the best. I think this tech is good on defense, but if you have to move into the enemy board, it's very easy for them to do something like this, right? Or they just put crawlers in front and the rest of their board doesn't really move because you're moving into them. So that definitely wasn't the play. I think the oil turns were fine, but I probably should have gone for more sledgehammers somehow. Could have also tried something on the left side of the board, but hey, that's kind of how the cookie crumbles. You try something, and sadly, if it doesn't work in a tournament setting, you lose. Still hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought of the tournament, what you thought of the games, what did I do wrong. Let me know. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.